Well, Europe has much bigger concerns right now than protesters at the summit here in Chicago. They are openly warning for what they've said is coming. For years it's been coming. Dominoes falling. And once one falls, they all fall. An EU official said, quote, an exit would bring down the whole house of cards. With one state falling after another, it would reach Portugal, Spain, then Italy, and France. There is a way out. It's low, flat taxes and serious spending cuts. Got to have both of them. The problem is over there, they don't have small government. They don't understand small government. And you need somebody with extraordinary bravery that can make that case. And they don't have it, and they wouldn't do it. And quite honestly, I think it may be too late to make that case in Europe because they're so far ahead. They're so far down this road. They also have another problem in Europe, and that is nationalism. That's where the neo-Nazis come in. Neo-Nazis are on the rise now in Europe. We warned you about this for a while, but now it's actually starting to happen, and it's a little spooky. I want you to listen to this from an MP from the UK Independence Party in the EU.
And the EU Titanic has now hit the iceberg. It is a European Union of economic failure, of mass unemployment, of low growth, but worst of all, it's an EU with the economic prison of the euro. And this now poses huge dangers to the continent. We face the prospect of mass civil unrest, possibly even revolution, in some countries that are being driven into total and utter desperation. But there is perhaps an opportunity, there is perhaps some good news, that now a democratic rebellion has begun. It began in Finland last year, with the True Finns getting nearly 20% of the vote. And we're seeing in country after country new political movements on the right and the left making big scores. But that may not all be good news, because in Greece what we saw last Sunday was rather reminiscent of the German election of 1932. We saw the status quo centre collapse and the extremes of right and left rise. You know, this project could even cause the rebirth of National Socialism in Europe. We are headed the wrong way. We must break up the Eurozone. We must set those Mediterranean countries free. We must try to build a Europe. I want a Europe, but a Europe based on trade, a Europe based on cooperation, a Europe based on us sitting round the table and agreeing sensible rules on crime and the environment. We can do all of those things, but we cannot do it if we're asked to rally behind that flag. I owe no allegiance to that flag, and nor do most of the people in Europe either.
He is 100% right. I mean, do you think Germans are really going to rally behind the EU flag when it's time to bail out Greece, Italy, Spain? Really? Why should the Germans have to suffer because the Greeks, were wearing their Speedos down on the beach when they're 50 years old? Or they were, building 30 gigantic Olympic stadiums that are now sitting there empty and rotting. Why should Germans do it? Once you understand that feeling, and you can do it, because why should you have to pay for California's mistakes? Once you get that, you understand what the outgoing Greek prime minister said, quote, if Greece cannot meet its obligations and serve the debt on the pain will be great. What will prevail are armed gangs with Kalashnikovs, and which one has the greatest number of Kalashnikovs will count. We'll end up in a civil war. Most people don't want to pay attention to what's happening in Europe. Only 3% here in America say they are paying attention to it, but we have to, because it is coming. And maybe if we're not smart, it'll come here.